Good morning, everyone. We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, YouTube streaming, and via Skype. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming from our studios in Trinidad. Sutras of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Once again, I am taking back some of the sutras from the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra and the questions relating to the spirituality of tantric sex act. I will explain certain things which is important to understand the nature of sex and how does it function as energy. You take a seed. Seed is planted deep down in the womb of the earth. Then the earth is the source of nutrition, and how the nutrition reaches the plant. All the nutrients are water soluble, so it must need the water in order for the nutrients to get absorbed in the earth. And then through the osmosis process, through the capillary system of the plant, the nourishment reaches to the various branches of the plant, the leaves, the buds, the flowers, everywhere it reaches. Something like this happens in a human being. So first is the source of energy, the storehouse of the energy. So what is the storehouse of the energy? What is the water center? And how energy is generated? All these need to be understood. The earth is the element that stores all the energy, all the nutrients. We add the fertilizer, we add the natural or chemical fertilizers to the soil, mix it up with the soil, and it is stored there. Then water is needed to allow it to absorb in this every particle of the soil. But it is not generated there. The energy is generated somewhere else. So this is the beginning of the understanding. Then the storehouse, the place that stores the energy, it has a function, it has a role, it has a discipline that it has to work in that manner. Then the water system has a role to perform, a certain responsibility is given to it. Then where it is generated, that has a function that has to work in a particular way. Then the other aspects of it. So this I will take in detail. So there are two ways to understand it. One is the general way, the other is through the way of the Hindu pantheon. It is the system of gods. Just as when you have an organization, each one is given a certain responsibility and a role to perform in the organization, as well as when a particular project is to be undertaken by the organization, a certain committee works on that, is dedicated to work on that project, that comprise of certain people, and each one has a role to perform. So if we can give it a name according to Hindu pantheon, that Mr. X is responsible for this, to gather the data. The next one is responsible for something else. And when all these people who constitute that, who comprise that are responsible for that project, they work in harmony with one another, the project attains fruition. So in the same way, human life is a project, and the project is for the transformation of human consciousness. You are born as a seed. The seed must be planted, must develop, must sprout, then attain to fruition, and then finally, in the beginning of the startup of that project, a committee is made. Every participant of that becomes an active member of that and perform their role in harmony with one another. When the project is completed, that committee is dissolved because the purpose has been attained. Now, when the next project is to be undertaken, depending on the nature of the project, different persons will be again added, deleted to form the new committee to start up the project. So in this way, I will have to take it more in details. So the spirituality of tantric sex, Shiva speaks to Devi, his consort, at the start of the sexual union. Keep attentive on the fire in the beginning, and so continue and avoid the embers in the end. I had spoken on this earlier on, but because of its significance and need, I have to take it over again. So the first sutra says, at the beginning of the union, keep attentive on the fire in the beginning, and so continuing, avoid the embers in the end. The next sutra says, when in such ember your senses are shaken like leaves, enter the shaking, become the shaking. Even remembering union without the embrace, transformation. These sutras are mathematical equations They need to be decoded. Sigmund Freud has said somewhere that man is born neurotic. It is half truth. No one is born neurotic. The human being is not born neurotic, as Sigmund said. Instead, he is born in a society that is neurotic, is born in a humanity that is neurotic, where everyone is neurotic sooner or later. When you are in the company of an intelligent person, your way of thinking changes. If you are in the company of a chef, then seeing him operating, your instincts will also develop. I recall when I used to take the cooking classes, one day my daughter said that I have to go and teach someone how to make this particular dish. Then one day my wife told me that don't cook food today, I am going to teach a cooking lesson to the people in the neighborhood, and when the food is cooked I will bring it from there. This is how it happens. If you are in the company of the musician, everyone tries to be musically oriented in one way or the other. So it is not that the person was not, because somebody has initiated a process, because of that everybody is getting inspired and getting interested in that. This is how it happens. So it is that the human being is born in a neurotic society or a neurotic humanity around, and everybody around drives everyone neurotic sooner or later. Just as before you started the musical practice or the cooking classes or practice or something else, everyone was normal, living their life in their own way. But the moment everybody started seeing you playing the flute and this, or cooking or something, or preparing the dishes, then everybody gets affected by it. In terms of neurosis, we say that sooner or later everyone becomes neurotic, is affected by that phenomena, affected by that which is going to happen. Man is born. Now we are talking about neurosis, so let us focus on that. Man is born natural, real, normal, but the moment the newborn becomes the part of the society, neurosis starts working. No one is born as a Hindu, Muslim or Christian, but is born in a Hindu family, because where else would he take birth? In a Hindu family or a Muslim family or Christian family. And the parents are very much afraid. They start conditioning the child from the early age. Better to condition the child when his senses, his attention, the mind is not developed completely. Otherwise, he will try to have his own ways and means. It is very easy to convince a little child than a grown-up person. So it starts very early. We start doing the various rituals and so, and making him a Hindu, Muslim or Christian. But we never ask a child, what would you like to do? When it comes to education system, in certain cases, without looking at the interest of the child, we start imposing. That is what normally happens in almost every family. Every father looks what he could not do through his child, through his children. And in that things are being imposed without knowing the interest or seeing the capabilities. A person who has no interest in a particular discipline, he is forced into that. This creates neurosis, and neurosis consists of a deep split. You are not one, you are two or even many. This has to be understood deeply. Only then we can proceed in Tantra. Your feeling and thinking have become two different things. The feeling and your thinking. Feeling comes from within and thinking comes from outside. And that is the basis of neurosis. Your thinking part and your feeling part are separate from one another, and you are identified with the thinking part, not with the feeling part of your being. And feeling is more real than thinking. Feeling is more natural than thinking. You have come with the feeling heart, but thinking is cultivated, it is conditioned in you, it is given to you by the society to think in a particular way, and that becomes your identity. And your feeling gets suppressed because of that. Even when you say that you feel, you are not meaning that. Instead, only think that you feel. We think that we are feeling. The feeling has become almost dead, and this happens for certain reasons. When a child is born, he is more like a feeling being. He feels things. He is not thinking being yet. Thinking is not developed. It develops after a certain period of time. He is natural, just like anything natural in nature, just like a tree or an animal. We start molding the child, cultivating him, conditioning him. He has to suppress his feelings, because without suppressing the feelings, he will always be in trouble and thinking will not be possible. When he wants to cry, he cannot cry because parents will not approve of it. Imagine what happens. Child does some mischief. The mother or the father accuses him and maybe gives him a slap. Child's emotions are hurt because he has been natural. His emotions are hurt, he begins to cry. Then what does normally we do? We say, stop crying. The child cannot stop crying. And then we say, if you don't stop crying, I'll give you another slap. Now the child, his emotions are hurt, his feelings are hurt, he is crying. But how can he stop the crying? The only thing is, he will start holding his breath. There is no other way to stop the emotional disturbance that needs to be expressed. He starts holding the breath. And what he does, and then slowly and slowly he's taking the short breath, holding his breath. And then he practices that, has to, and then the crying stops. So this continues throughout the life. So we do not live, our lungs do not develop the total capacity, live in the total capacity of the lungs. There are said to be 6,000 lobes in the lungs area, but in most of the cases a child breathes deeply through almost all the lobes, but as you grow up, only 2,000 or maximum 2,000 lobes are open and the remaining remain closed, ineffective. That's where many breath-oriented diseases come into existence. He wants to cry, but he cannot because parents do not approve of it. He will be condemned. He will be forced to stop crying. He will not be appreciated, will not be loved, because for a man, crying is not considered to be the right thing. He is not accepted as it is. He must behave in a particular manner. He must behave according to the particular ideology, particular ideals. Only then he is loved, appreciated in the society. Love is not for him as he is. He can be loved only if he follows certain rules, certain etiquettes, certain conditionings. These rules are imposed, they are not natural. A natural being begins suppressed, begin to become suppressed, and the unnatural, the unreal is imposed on it. This unreal is your mind, and the moment comes when the split is so great that it cannot be bridged. You go on forgetting completely what your real nature was or is, and you create many mask faces, false faces. The original face is lost. In Zen monasteries, the first question asked, do you know your real face? Have you discovered your original face? And you are afraid to feel the original, because the moment you feel it, the original face, this entire society becomes against you. So you yourself are against your own original face. This creates a neurotic state. So you become neurotic as being part of the society, as being part of, not that you are born neurotic. You do not know what you want. Simple thing, I see it, experience this on a day-to-day basis. You are going to prepare the lunch or dinner. So you ask the people in the house, what would you like to have? What you would like to eat? What is there for dinner? These things. What you would like to eat? I don't know. I don't know what I want to eat. You do not really know. This is simple thing. Experience it within the house, among your children, among your wife, your husband. It is dinner time. The main person, the cook or the housewife, inquires what you would like to eat. I don't know what to eat. These are the part of the neurosis. It may be natural that I want today just light food. That is a different thing. But you must be certain about what you want. Let's say there are 3 vegetables available in the kitchen. Which one you want? I don't know which one I want. And give me anyone that you like. When you give anyone that you like, oh no, I wanted that one. This is natural in our homes. I see it on a day-to-day basis. And you do not know what you want. You do not know what your real or the authentic needs are. And then you go on after non-authentic needs, because only the feeling heart can give you the sense, the direction of what your real needs are. The mind cannot give you. When the feelings are suppressed, you create symbolic needs. For example, you may go on eating more and more, stuffing yourself with food, and you never get the slightest idea that you are full. The need is for love. It is not for food. Those who have missed love in their lives, they start eating more because there is an emptiness. You do not know what you really need. Food. Food is the love. And in one of the plays, Twelfth Night, William Shakespeare speaks through Duke Arsinoe. If music be the food of love, play on. Give me the excess of it that the appetite may fulfill. So the need is love. And when we do not understand and we overlook the feelings and start being a thinking mind, thinking being, then we forget, and then the emptiness that love has created, the absence of love has created, you start stuffing with the food. And you start eating more and more. The more loving you are, experience any moment when you are loving, you will eat less. When you are saddened because of the absence of love, you will eat more. But food and love are deeply related to one another. So when the need for love is not felt or is suppressed, a false need for food is created and you go on eating because the need is not for the food, instead it is for the love. But you do not know, and it can never be fulfilled, and we live in false needs. That is why there is no fulfillment, no satiation. You want to be loved, and that is a basic need, natural, spontaneous. But it cannot be delivered in a false dimension, false manner. For example, the need to be loved can be felt as a false need if you try to divert the attention to others, attention of others to yourself. You want that others should pay attention to you, so you may become a political leader. Great crowd will pay attention to you. But the basic need was to be loved. And even the whole world is paying attention to you, but the basic need is not fulfilled. That basic need can be fulfilled by a single person loving you, paying attention to you because of love. When someone pays attention to you out of love, that is more fulfilling than the crowd that you have gathered around you. When you love someone, you pay attention to that person. Attention and love are deeply related to one another. If you suppress the need for love, you cannot replace by another. Then it becomes a symbolic need. Then you need the attention of others. You may get it or may not. Even if you get it, but that will not bring any kind of fulfillment in you, because the need is false. Discontented from the natural basic need, this division is the basis of neurosis. Tantra is very revolutionary concept, the oldest and yet the newest aspect. Tantra is one of the oldest traditions, and yet it is not a tradition. It is empty tradition, because Tantra says unless you are whole, unless you are one, you are missing altogether. You should not remain in a split state. You should be harmonized within. You must become one. What to do to become one? You can go on thinking that I am becoming one, but that is not going to help, because thinking is the technique that divides. Thinking is very analytical. It divides, it splits the things. It is like the scissors. Feeling unites, synthesizes, makes things one. So what does cooking does? Cooking unites the different ingredients together into one thing, makes it one. The dish, different ingredients are added at different stages, and when all these together go through the process of cooking, we get a unified dish, where you do not get the taste of any particular particular ingredients. Instead, you get everything in a union. Feeling unites, synthesizes, makes the things one. So you can go on thinking, reading, studying, contemplating. It is not going to help unless you fall back to your feeling center. But it is very difficult because we have been conditioned in that. Because even when we think about the feeling center, we think, when you say to someone, I love you, be aware of whether it is just a thought. In most of the cases, it is a thought, I love you. Or whether it is a feeling. It is just a thought that you are missing something. A feeling is of the whole. Your whole body, mind, everything you are is involved in the feeling. In thinking, only your head is involved. And that too not totally. Instead, just a fragment of your mind is involved in it when you say, I love you. And you send the message, I love you. But there is only a passing thought. It may be there, it may not be there next moment. Only a fragment is involved in it. A fragment of a second is involved in it when you send a message, I love you, happy birthday. There is only a passing thought. It may be there the next moment or not. A fragment is involved in it, and that creates a life of misery. Because with a fragmentary thought, you give promise which you cannot fulfill. I recall about one of the very important person of Indian origin. His name is Ratan Tata, the Tata Group, chairman of the Tata Group of companies, who make things from very ordinary salt to aeroplanes, the vehicles and so. When he was studying in America, he had fallen in love with an American person, and he made commitment to her to get married. It was the time of 1962 when China has attacked India. Then all of a sudden a message came to Ratan. Ratan, come, and it was from his grandmother because his parents had separated, and she was brought up by his grandmother. So he asked the girl to accompany her, that he will introduce her to his grandmother, and there he will marry. But the parents of the girl refused to send her with Ratan, and he came back, but he promised her that he will marry her. Promise. Then it happened. When he came back, he had to take care of the business, and somehow the parents of that girl got her married to someone else. Because Ratan Tata made a promise to that girl that she will marry her and no one else, he lived that promise throughout his life. He is 83 years of age, philanthropist, who gives 66% of the company's profit in charities. He studied at Cornell University, and thereafter he went and he gave a donation to the university, saying that this money should be used to give scholarships to the Indian students who deserve scholarship. Many incidents are like that. Because he made a promise, he lived up to that, and he said, when I make a promise, when I speak, either I will not say, and if I say, I stick to those words. They promise, but in our case, your whole being is not involved. You say something, and what will happen? What will you do tomorrow when the fragment has gone and the thought is no more there? Now the promise will become a bondage. This is how we live our lives. Sartre has said somewhere that every promise is going to be false, but not in case of Ratan Tata. So it was, I think, is from Harvard University. They sent a team of the professors to study what is so dedication in the workers of Tata Group of companies that they are so dedicated to their job. Maybe they get a higher salary, maybe they get the bonus, maybe even the person who has now entered. What he said during the time when they inquired and they did their own analysis, and finally when they talked to Ratan Tata, interviewed him and asked him, what is the cause of the dedication of your workers towards their job? He said, during the time of interview, we checked two things: the honesty and integrity of the person. There was an incident once in his automobile section. There was a strike by the union. They wanted the bonus, and the management was saying it cannot be given. When the message reached to Ratan Tata, he came on behalf of the workers and he told the management they deserve a bonus. Bonus should be given. And imagine the man Ratan Tata sat down with the workers as one of them, and part of the protest to be given. When the workers saw that the managing director, the chairman, is sitting with us, everything changed. He said, we will not demand any more bonus or anything. It is more than enough that our chairman feels for us. And this is the cause of dedication. There are many stories available on YouTube and so let your promise not be a false one. Let it not come out of his promise to that person did not come out of part of thinking mind. It came out of feeling. So when we start living with the feeling, it is most important than anything else. This was the beginning, the introduction to this aspect, the spirituality of tantric sex act. Now I will take the sutras in tomorrow's session. Until then, take care and do have a pleasant day.